Hey everyone, and welcome back to another C# RPG tutorial. So in this tutorial we're going to be setting up basic shadows, fake shadows for our player and NPCs. And I'm also going to show you guys a way to cast summoning circles and different stuff on the ground. So sometimes in MMOs or RPGs, use the mouse to place different, either if it's like an area of effect attack, you'll place it on the ground and it'll show you a little preview circle where it's going to be placed, and I'll show you how to do that all with projectors. So what we're going to do is we're going to import a package and we're going to go to effects. Now when you started Unity, these should have been included in the project. You might have had to check these, but I believe Unity has these available on their website as well if you're looking for them. So we're just going to uncheck all these effects and we're just going to keep projectors, because that's the main thing we're going to be using for this tutorial. So after you import them, you want to go down to Effects, Projectors, and we're going to go down to Prefabs, and these are the different ones. So we have the Light Projector, and it'll cast a light onto the ground. We have a Shadow Projector, which will cast a shadow onto the ground. And then a Grid Projector, which will project a grid onto any surface that you put it onto. We'll lift it above the train. You can see it places a grid. This might be nice for testing certain things, or if you want a certain effect to go throughout your level. But we won't be using that for this tutorial. We're just going to go in and use the blob and shadow. So with the blob, if we want to set this up to work with our player, we can set it right above our player. And we'll just position it where we like it. And then we'll just find our player and throw it onto there. Now if you want this blob shadow to ignore the player, you're going to need to select the game object that is your player. And we're going to mark it as player. And then we're going to click on the blob shadow and we're going to change this to player. So it will ignore the player, but it will cast the shadow on every other surface available. So I'll just get that centered. And now if you want to make this darker, we can actually go into Photoshop and change that. All you'd have to do is show in Explorer, and they have them set up. You can load a Photoshop file and just change the levels of the shadow. So if you want it a little bit darker, we can save it and go back in, and the shadow will be a little bit darker than before depending on how you want to set that up. And now with the light, we can do the same exact thing. And what we're going to be doing for this one is changing it to be an actual, it'll display an image on this area. So if we select the light, we can go back into our textures and open up light in Photoshop. And I grabbed a random alchemy image offline. And what we could just do is place it over. And we can adjust it however we want. I'm just going to put it over like this. You could also, if you want to, adjust the transparency of the object and increase the brightness if you want to. We could give this a glow effect, but for now we're just going to leave it like that. And we'll save it. Jump back into Unity, and you can see that it's placed on the ground. Now we see this this line here. We just have to go into here and change some of the settings. So the max size is set pretty low, but if we crank that up, it'll show more detail. You could even change all this if you wanted to. Now if we take this, if you want it to display in a wider range, there's a bunch of different settings that you can change here to make it, let's see, you can change the field of view if you want it to be wider. So if you're going to place a spell, you could just, maybe we'll do this in the future for another tutorial, but we'll make it so wherever after you click the spell and wherever your cursor is, it'll draw this onto the ground wherever your cursor is in the area. And when you click, we can make it so that goes away and it casts a spell within that range. And you see that a lot in RPGs and MMOs for placing spells onto the ground. It kind of previews the area that you want it to go. You could also add in like little animations and whatnot to that if you wanted to. But yeah, for now, we'll just go into game real quick. I'm going to adjust this shadow just a little bit more. As you can see here, we have a little shadow, and it blurs out as we jump too. So if you change the actual, we can change all these settings in here as well. If you wanted to make it wider or whatever you guys want to do for that, depending on your character size, you can adjust all these different stats. Orthographic, so it stays no matter, or it stays within that area. It won't have the more 3D effect to it. And yeah, that's a basic way for setting up these types of things. Obviously, we could do a lot more with these in the future, but this is just a basic way if you want to set up some fake shadows for characters, or yeah, different types of effects that you can use for casting spells and whatnot. But yeah, we'll go over this stuff a little bit more in the future. Hopefully I can add a little bit more to this, but yeah, see you guys next time in the next tutorial.